The sun is shining on a beautiful sunny afternoon at Circuit Paul Ricard near Marseille in France, the third outing of the season for the 2024 F4 Spanish Championship. We've had qualifying and practice sessions over the past couple of days. Now it's business time. We are into race time. The first of three races this weekend. It's the third visit ever for F4 Spanish Championship to the home of the French Grand Prix. And it's certainly going to be quite fascinating with a few drivers starting a little bit out of position that are towards the front of the grid, and also somebody who is back to pole position for the first time since the last couple of times on the grid a couple of races ago. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Scott Woodward's here in the commentary box. I'll be joined shortly by Alex Garcia, who is down on the ground at Paul Ricard. As you can see, beautiful weather conditions, a packed grid of no less than 35 drivers in the weekend. And in terms of that, not just the size of the grid, but also the spread of nationalities. I mean, here's a fun fact for you. There are no less than 23 nationalities represented on this grid. It just shows how popular Spanish F4 has become, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of a worldwide attraction from drivers from all over the globe, from Europe, from Asia, from the Emirate countries, as well as North and South America. There are plenty of great drivers here who are all bidding to make their next steps on the single-seater ladder. The Circuit Paul Ricard itself, we're using the full Grand Prix layout, which itself is 5.842 kilometres in length, 3.63 miles. And it's certainly going to be quite testing. A real development and sort of mixing setup the drivers are going to need between having a car that's good enough for the long straights here and the tight technical sections. Lots of tarmac runoff areas here to try and help out, which means one or two drivers might take one or two risks out there, but they've got to be careful they don't get stung for track limits. So the championship itself has been quite competitive. Coming into the weekend, it is the United Arab Emirates driver Kianu Al-Azari that tops the current standings in the points, with 102 points ahead of Lucas Flucher in second place for Spain. Thomas Strauven in third place for Belgium is on 67 points. Ernesto Rivera 54 points in fourth. He is representing Mexico. Running at the top five is today's pole sitter, Mattia Kolnagi, who has put a top time in qualifying to put himself fastest, but only by a few hundredths of a second, which means that he's going to have quite a lot of competition. That the time spread throughout qualifying was incredibly close. If you want to put this into context, the top 20 cars were separated by less than a second, and in terms of the top 26 cars covered by less than 1.5. That means that we could have some very tight battles, not just at the front, but all the way down the pack. And that's what's really helped to characterise Spanish F4 as one of the best F4 championships, not just in Europe, but around the world in terms of its competition, its diversity in nationalities, and indeed, have a number of drivers that are in the mix to score good points and even podiums or possibly a race win also. So the cars now start to make their way out of the pit lane and onto the grid for the first of three races this weekend. And of course, so far this season, they have already visited a couple of circuits. They started the season back at Jarama, went to the first of their two away rounds, which was at Portimao at the Algarve circuit in Portugal. They're here, of course, for the Paul Ricard circuit here, La Castellet in France. It's only their third time at Spanish F4 has visited the circuit. They visited back in 2019 and 2020 for a break of a few years. And then after this weekend, they are back to home soil for the rest of the year. They will be going to Aragon and then to the Ricardo Tormes circuit in Valencia, Jerez in Jerez de la Frontera, and they'll end at the home of the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, Catalonia. So as they head through onto the grid, you can see the umbrellas are certainly up in terms of being able to keep the pressure on. And some of the drivers towards the rear of the grid are going to have a few challenges to make their way through, particularly with this being it's quite a long circuit, but in terms of working their way through, they should try and do as best a job as possible. There is the man that starts on pole position for race one today, Mattia Kolnagi, the Italian for KCL MP Motorsport. This is his second pole of the season, given that he also took pole position back for the third race at Jarama. So he'll want to try and take full advantage of that. He so far has one victory to his name, and that was... in fact, he hasn't won a race so far this season. His best result was second at Portimao last time out. So he'll be looking for his first win of the season, with 4 different race winners so far this year. And alongside him on the front row of the grid is the man that will try and beat him to turn one, Kianu Al-Azari, the championship leader for MP Motorsports, with no less than 2 wins under his belt. He's only finished out off the podium once, and that was at race 3 at Jarama. He's also kept up a very long run of top starts. It's his fifth front row start of the season. Had 3 poles in a row and had a second place back at Jarama for the first race. He's got some work to do now to try and see if he can beat Kolnagi to turn 1 and to try and pick him up in the mix. And also on the grid in 3rd position is going to be Juan Cota. This will be by far and away his best qualifying result of the season. His previous best was race 3 at Jarama, but he's had a fantastic effort to put himself on the 2nd row of the grid. He was originally 4th in qualifying, but a 5-place grid penalty from the last race for Maciek Gladish has put him back from 3rd to 8th. So 5 places dropped down for the Polish driver, and for the 2nd row of the grid for Juan Cota, he will be hoping to try and put up a good effort in there too.
Juan, great qualifying. What are your expectations for the race?
Well, we keep working. We are gonna try our best and try to get into the front. We are gonna try to get some good points for the championship, but I'm gonna enjoy it and just it.
Good luck. Well, those were the words from Juan Cota, who is starting from 3rd position after a very, very good qualifying. Apologies for cutting you there, Scott. That was really, really tight on the grid. As you know, we tried to bring you the latest news, latest words from the drivers 15 seconds from the start. So that was a way to start with quite a bit of excitement.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I want to ask down there, Alex, how hot is it down there? I saw some of the temperatures were about 27, 28 degrees. So how warm is it down there? And how much is that going to affect the drivers out there, particularly with those warm temperatures? Is it going to be too much on tyres, on brakes? How are they going to cope out there with such warm conditions on this summer afternoon?
It is extremely hot, and that is very remarkable considering that we were having quite a bit of rain earlier. Not that long ago, maybe half an hour ago, it was raining. But now we have 37 degrees on the track. So very, very hot tarmac. Of course, as you know, that's going to cause quite a bit of tire degradation. So drivers will have to cope with it, especially on a circuit that is quite hard on the tires like Paul Ricard. So that'll be something to look out for in the race because it is going to be an issue. And those drivers, especially that chose to go with used tires as opposed to new tires, they will be suffering a lot more for sure.
Just a word also, 1 or 2 drivers who were quite high in the points but didn't have that great a qualifying stuff. 2 drivers I want to pick out in particular. Thomas Stralven, who took a victory at Jarama and is 3rd in the points. He starts back in 11th on the grid. And Nathan Ty, the British driver, 6th in points, took his best results of the season last time at Portimao. He's back in 13th. So 2 drivers didn't have the greatest of sessions. Was there a particular reason for that, do you think? Or was it them just simply not adapting to the Paul Ricard circuit better than some others?
There were some teams that were struggling a little bit with setup in terms of, especially with temperature changes from yesterday to today. As you know, they had some test sessions yesterday, and some teams that were having a better day on Friday, they didn't quite get it right on Saturday. And as you know, qualifying, usually it's used to get those extra tenths, but since the conditions were not the same as the free practice, they didn't quite get it right at that extra point. They were around 5-6 seconds slower on the light rain as opposed to dry. So I would say that there's still probably drivers to look out for during the race. They've been quick on other rounds, so look out for them in terms of recovering, especially because this is a track where Slipstream is going to provide a number of opportunities to overtake.
Yeah, definitely. And one final point before we go through the grid in a second. Lucas Flusha, 2nd in the championship, only starting in 7th place, so not the best qualifying for him. It's slight improvement from what he had at Portimao because he picked up 12th, 11th and 10th in the qualifying sessions, not really compared to his front row starts at Jarama. Again, it's just a case of him struggling with the circuit, or was he finding a bit more form after he was a bit off the pace at Portimao, do you think?
It was probably more to do with how the conditions were different in qualifying. Again, it's something that's changed a little bit the expectations for some drivers, and it has saved others. There were drivers that were definitely struggling more in free practice and who, kind of made use of the change of circumstances. So I would still think that he has a good chance to recovering, but let's see how he manages with that, because as you know, starting from the group, you always have more risk of running into trouble. So that's something that he will be looking to avoid.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Alex. We'll hopefully drop in with you towards the end of the race when we catch up with our top 5 and our winners as the cars are making their way around towards the grid. We should quickly rattle through where they're going to start for race 1 of this weekend here, the F4 Spanish Championship at Paul Ricard. It is Mattia Colnaghi who starts on pole position. It's only his second pole of the season. Alongside him is Chiara Alazari on the front row of the grid, looking to try and keep up his run after 3 poles last time. Juan Cota with his by far best qualifying in 3rd place. We heard from just shortly there from Alex Garcia. Thank you to him. Griffin Peebles also an improved effort for him for MP Motorsport. He starts in 4th. Then Ernesto Rivera and James Igozzi on the 3rd row of the grid. And Lucas Flusha, 2nd in the championship, struggling a bit in qualifying. He'll start from P7. He's ahead of Maciek Gladzic, who has a 5 pace grid penalty after last time at Portimao. Top 10 is completed by Jan Przowski and Mattia Quintarelli, followed by Thomas Strauven. Again, he is 3rd in the championship, starting back in 11th place from Tim Gerhardt. Then it's Nathan Tye and Gabriel Gomez, Andre Cardenas and Adam Hideg, then Ivan David and Mikael Pedersen, with Lammers, Tarkunchevul, Dedeker and Lenny Reed rounding out those top 24 positions. Last couple of cars getting into position. 30 minutes plus 1 lap here for race 1 of round 3 of Spanish F4 2024 in the sunshine in France. So, can Mattia Colnaghi go for his first victory of the season? Can Chiara Alazari keep himself at the front of the field? 5 red lights and we're all set to go. We are racing at Paul Ricard. A couple of cars didn't get away properly. Yellow flags on the pit walls. They charge down towards turn 1 for the first time. And Juan Cota is side by side with Chiara Alazari. It's going to be Colnaghi who will lead them in towards the first corner at the Verrerie S for the first time. It looks like Cota has got 2nd place from the championship leader Chiara Alazari. They turned in through the first few couple of corners down towards the Virage to the Hotel and then Virage du Comp at the end of sector 1 for the first time. Down the hill towards the complex. Looks as though that James Igozzi's up to 4th place. Good start for the American. He has come all the way up from what was 6th on the grid up to 4th. As the rest of the pack picks its way through. Griffin Peebles has had a poor start too. Started in 4th, all the way down to 9th place. Back up to 8th past Nathan Tye. Through the Virage du Camp. And there's the car that hasn't got away. It's damaged on the right rear. It's car 27. And that is car 27. It's Lucas Flusha. So the second place in the championship was caught on the grid. And he will not go any further. Safety car has been deployed. But Lucas Flusha is the man in big trouble. He was caught on the pit straight at the start, possibly one of the cars that didn't really get away properly from the grid. And you saw their damage to the right rear wheel. And he will go no further in this race. So he is one of the big losers in this match, particularly when he's losing valuable points to Chiara Alazari, who's currently in 3rd place at the moment. And also, this is going to be big news for Ernesto Rivera, Thomas Strauven, and Mattia Colnaghi, who leads at the midpoint in this first race. His first lap, I should say, meanwhile. So under safety car, let's take a bit of assessment of who is where at the start of that first race. So Mattia Colnaghi retains the lead from pole position. It's Juan Cota in 2nd place. And then Chiara Alazari in 3rd. So he lost out from the start. James Igozzi's had a fantastic getaway for Campos. Started 6th. He's up to 4th. 2 places already. Ernesto Rivera is where he started back in 5th. Maciek Gladzic is up 2 places from 8th to 6th. Matteo Quintarelli is also had a good start, 3 places to 7th. Griffin Peebles was one of the big losers from that, starting what was 4th on the grid down to 8th. Nathan Tye is up a couple of places into P9. And Thomas Strauven, the Belgian, who started back in 11th place, he's up a spot into 10th. Should mention we've got 2 newcomers here this weekend. We've got the brother of Chiara Alazari, and that's the reason why we've also got some issues. That is actually Lucas Flusha's car being pushed backwards into pit lane because the car is unable to move properly. They might possibly be taking the cars through pit lane to avoid the car being moved on the pit straight. That's a possibility. Yeah, in fact, they are taking him down pit lane. You can see on the left-hand side, there's a string of blue P's down the left-hand side. That means the cars are in pit lane. So I think just for safety reasons, whilst they recover Lucas Flusha's damaged car, bring him down the pit lane in order to allow the marshals to do their work. A big thank you to all the marshals, of course, wherever they might be this weekend in the world of motorsport. Without them, we simply couldn't go racing, and all the officials and volunteers who give up their efforts. And even in pit lane, the drivers are getting some encouragement from the teams, from the pit boxes and the pit wall. So as they make their way back on circuit, you see there the Red Bull liveried car of James Igozzi for Campos Racing. Made a strong start. The Santalot car in there as well. That's Matteo Quintarelli, who's up in 7th place. Mateo coming into the weekend 12th in points. His best result to date so far was 4th place at Harama in race 3. So he's got a good chance here to get himself a potential top 5. But he's got to try and pick himself past Maciej Gladish and also Ernesto Rivera, who Rivera himself comes into the weekend 4th in points, the Mexican. He has 1 win to his name. Took victory in race 2 at Portimao. Has also had a 2nd place at Harama and the top 5 finish in Portimao's 3rd race, where he was 4th. He's got a little bit of ground to make up in the points. He is nearly 50 points back on championship leader Keanu Alazari. As for the 2 newcomers, as we see Lucas Fluch's car continues to be pushed, they've turned it around the other way so they can push it forwards rather than back. And into pit lane it comes. So I would expect potentially that we'll get safety car in this time by. 2 newcomers this weekend are Adam Alajari, who is the younger brother of Keanu Alajari, only just turned 15 about a week and a half ago, and making his first start in Spanish F4 with the Technicar team. Also hails from United Arab Emirates, because Keanu Alajari was one of the front runners in the F4 UAE Championship. And also we have Pacome Weisenberger from France, so he's making his debut in the championship in his local series. And Pacome himself has done a little bit of single-seaters. He did in fact race he has been racing in the French F4 Championship this year so far, and has even taken some decent results. Before that, he was quite a prominent karter. He was a champion at junior level in France, and also he was the 2nd place last year in IAMI Series France at X30 senior level. So he's looking pretty good there, but he's been running a little bit of French F4 so far this year, and now jumping into the Spanish Championship, being one of his home local circuits. In terms of where they currently sit at the moment, Adam Alazari, he qualified in, that was 21st position, and currently he's showing as being in 17th, so he's made up 4 places from where he started. As for the Frenchman Weissenberger, I want to say he's taken the start, but I can't actually see him on the timing screen, which is interesting. So maybe he didn't quite take the start as he should have done and wasn't able to get going in the first place. So the safety car lights are off as the Cupra safety car moves off, which now allows Mattia Kolnagi the chance to stack the pack. Apologies, it's Audi safety car rather than a Cupra. I should identify that better. But Mattia Kolnagi now becomes the safety car by default. He now decides when to pull the pin and when to get racing back underway. Juan Cota, of course, has up into the dizzying heights of 2nd place at the moment. That's interesting. He's now ahead of, yes, he is ahead of Keiki Alazari anyway. And rather than wait, Kolnagi's gone early on the restart. He decided to restart all the way back at Curb de Galaban. Through Virage de Tour. Somebody's lost their front wing. It's one of the Santaloc cars towards the rear. Now, I can't quite tell who that is. Let's see if we can find out who somebody is towards the back in the Santaloc cars. It might be Maximilian Restrepo, but he's way back in 26, so possibly the Colombian driver hitting strife before they've even got going. Now, whether he hits somebody at the back of the car is remains to be seen. He runs wide over the curb, but we're back to green flag racing under racing speeds at Paul Ricard, and it is Mattia Kolnagi who leads them in towards the Est de la Verrière for the first time under racing speeds again. So Cota 2nd, Alazari 3rd, James Agozzi in 4th, the young American. Then it's Rivera, Gladish, Quintarelli, Peebles, Ty and Strauven rounding out the top 10. Into the Virage Hotel and up towards Camp Corner. At the moment, Kolnagi looks pretty calm and collected, and that was a huge dive up the inside from James Agozzi going for 3rd place. I thought for a second he was going to tank the rear of Cota at the same time, but had a lunge at Alazari into Camp Corner. We'll see if that came off in a second. Everyone else staying single file for the time being. It's Kolnagi holding on. And Agozzi started out to have a look at 3rd. Alazari, how much does he defend? The answer is not much. Turns into the left-hander. And the UAE driver capitulates and lets the young Red Bull Junior through into 3rd. I think the driver that did hit strife, I think it was Maximilian Restrepo for Santaloc, because he dropped backwards. I noticed he was running without a front wing, and that's gone through a bit. Agozzi up to 3rd now. How much more progress can he make towards the front? And actually, Ernesto Rivera is also putting the championship leader under pressure too, through Senior at high speed for the first time. Out in front though still, it's still Kolnagi from Cota. Agozzi, Alazari, and Rivera. That's the battle of a third going on. Just behind them is Maciej Gladish, holding on to 6th position. Quintarelli, Peebles, Ty and Strauven. And yeah, a couple of... That's the big lose you can see there. In 34th place, Lucas Flusha didn't even make it off the grid with damage to his right rear off the start. Whether he was collected by somebody, or he must have been collected by somebody, but who it was isn't quite clear. End of the first racing lap after the safety car. Kolnagi across the line. And he will set the first proper flying lap of a 2-minute 7.180. Trying to extend that lead to about 3/4 of a second. This is the main fight, though, for 3rd position. James Agozzi, the American, for Campos Racing. Then it's Kiana Alazari for MP Motorsport. And Esther Rivera for Griffin Core by Campos. The 2 Campos machines on the attack. And at the moment, Alazari very much the MP Motorsport filling in a Campos sandwich. And car 21's gone around, and that is one of the Santalot racing cars, not having a great race for them. And Santalot, Ivan David's had issues. So Ivan David, he was running as high as... Well, he's tumbled down the order, but he's down towards the... Yeah, he's gone right down the order, unfortunately. And the young Sri Lankan, unfortunately, is out of action. So that means he's out of the race too. There wasn't visible damage on the front of that car, but he will try and recover if he can. More battles further back as we're getting into the slipstream. And of course, running on the Grand Prix circuit means the long Mistral straight is just broken up by this the chicane Nord. And they just come to the end of Sector 2, halfway down this straight towards Senior, which at proper racing speeds is real fast and flat out, back before they go towards De Beausset, this double apex right-hander. And then back to the more tighter technical section towards the end of the lap, towards Virage de Bondor, Courbe de Garlabin, and then the tower corner, Virage de la Tour, and then the tightest corner on the circuit, which is Virage du Pont. It takes them back onto the pit straight to complete another lap. So just gone past about 11 minutes into the race. It's 30 minutes plus 1 lap in Spanish F4. And still, Mattia Kolnagi has this under pressure. One car running very wide. That might have been Quintarelli in the Santalot racing car. He was across the line 7th place, but he might have lost a couple more places as a result of running wide there. He is back to 9th. He's lost out to both the Griffin Peebles and to Nathan Ty, and Peebles and Ty swap places. It's 3 abreast, in fact, in the background. And that was one of the MP Motorsport cars. That looks like it was Peebles, Ty and Quintarelli fighting over 7th position. We might see the outcome of that in a second. As there you can see further back, that is Maciej Gladic in 6th position, but here comes 7th, 8th and 9th. So let's see how that battle plays out. It looks as though it's gone to Nathan Ty by the looks of it, because that is a Campos racing car, yes, in 7th position. So a change of around there for 7th, 8th and 9th. Looks as though that Quintarelli has retained 8th position. Griffin Peebles for MP Motorsports down to 9th. Thomas Strauven, meanwhile, hasn't really gone any higher than 10th position. So remember, started back in 11th, only climbed 1 position. Just doesn't seem to have the pace so far in the early stages of race number 1. It's falling back a little bit into the clutches of the Dutch driver Tim Gerhardt, who started alongside him on the 6th row of the grid. Both of them up a spot, I think, as a result of Lucas Flusha coming out. There's a big battle going on there. That's towards the bottom of the top 10 between 2 cars. That was possibly, I think that was, in fact, Gerhardt and Cardenas, the Peruvian driver. So Cardenas for Campos. That would have been over 11th and 12th positions. They were very close together, wheel to wheel, exiting the chicane. But now on lap 5 here in this first F4 Spain race, it's still very close between the front runners. Kolnagi has a gap of 1.3 seconds, and that's that looks like that's the damaged, I think, front wing of Restrepo, I think, that was still on circuit. And someone's run over that. Someone either has lost the front wing at the front of the field, or that was Restrepo's car. And there was a car going to the pit lane in the background, and I think that might have been... Was that Alazari going to the pit lane? Is that the championship leader in trouble, I wonder? Because let's check them across the line. It's Kolnagi for Nota, and there is no Keanu Alazari. So what happened here? Exiting the cover. Oh, he's hit the... I think what's happened there is he's hit the exit of the curb, and it's torn off the front wing. So Keanu Alazari, the championship leader, in trouble by losing his front wing on the exit of Virage de la Tour. And he's into the pit lane, which then puts hit risk of scoring poor results. This really is going to give a few other drivers who've had some poor qualifyings this morning a bit of a let-off in terms of results. This now really gives the option for Strauven, Rivera and Colnaghi to make big gains. Strauven back in 9th now. He, of course, moves up one spot after Alazari pitted. And this also gives a chance for Ernesto Rivera to take some points. He's currently sat in 4th behind James Agozzi. At this point in time, Mattia Colnaghi has this one under control. 1.7 seconds the gap. Here's the fight for second. Juan Cota in second place from the young Red Bull Junior of James Agozzi as they turn into the chicane. And back onto the second part of the Mistral Straight. It's a bit sort of Le Mans-esque, really, isn't it? Because the Mulsanne Straight was broken up by chicanes. It's a little bit similar here at Paul Ricard. Rest of the top 10, how they've moved up. Rivera up to 4th now. Gladish up to 5th. So he's almost negated that 5-place grid penalty that he had from Portimao. 6th is Nathan Tate. 7th is Matteo Quintarelli. Peebles is up to 8th. Strauven 9th and Tim Gerhardt rounding out the top 10. Now Gerhardt himself is all the way down 36th in points. He's having a whale of a time up there in the top 10. It's quite dizzying heights for Tim. He came into the weekend with a best qualifying performance to date of, if I pick him up on my notes here, yeah, he hadn't qualified any better than 22nd before this morning, and his efforts in qualifying at Paul Ricard put him 12th on the grid. So he is currently on course to try and get by far and away his best result. He hasn't finished a race higher than 24th, and that was back in the second race at Jarama. So big gains for Tim Gerhardt up there, with dizzying heights of 10th. He's ahead of René Lammers, his fellow Dutchman, of course the son of former Le Mans winner and F1 racer and touring car racer Jan Lammers, up in 11th place. Cardenas is in 12th place, and Hideg as well, the Hungarian driver, up in 13th. He had a decent qualifying starting in 16th. So far, it looks as though that pace-wise, that Colnaghi has this one under control at the moment. He currently has the fastest lap of the race. 2 minutes 6.585. He gets a bonus point for fastest lap. As you see here, he got to looking up the inside at Camp Corner. Didn't quite pull it off there, getting past Cota. Now Rivera's right on his tail as they come out of Saint-Baume and onto the first pass of the Mistral Straight. Is there a chance here now for Rivera to capitalise on a failed move? For Agozzi's got through to second place, in fact. So Agozzi now side by side. No, this is Cota now down to 3rd. And under threat from Rivera. And also watch behind him because now Maciej Gladic is in there to 5th position. Up the inside into the chicane goes Rivera. And into 3rd place goes the Mexican. So move complete for Ernesto Rivera. Agozzi back down to 4th, and he hasn't got time to rest either, because look at Maciej Gladic, the Polish driver just behind him for Campos. He's now smelling a proper top 5 spot. Looking for 4th into Senior. There they go. Some personal best first and second sectors being set further down in the bottom of the top 10 and towards the midfield. So a few drivers getting a bit quicker. This is the move then. So that was Cota getting a little wide on the exit of the corner. Then as he tried to defend the position, so he just ran wide on the exit. And as Agozzi's failed attempt came back to haunt him, it was a simple pass up the inside to make the move for what has now become 4th position for Ernesto Rivera. Maciej Gladic is trying to pick himself up into P5. He's just wandering around the rear end of Agozzi's car as they turn out of Virage Dupont and back onto the straight. But all this fighting is only helping Mattia Colnaghi, because he's pulling away now with the tune of 3 seconds. So at the moment, he is comfortably in front. Still has 12 minutes plus 1 lap to reel off. Into the pit lane has come the Peruvian driver Andres Cardenas. He's into the pit lane from what was 15th on the grid. He was somewhere around the base of the top 10, but he's coming in with issues. So that's a shame for him, I'm afraid. Shout out for Adam Alazari. He's currently running in the mid-pack at the moment, 16th on his F4 debut, his car racing debut, in fact. At the moment, running ahead of his brother Keanu Alazari, who is back on track, but way down in 29th position, as you can see. And that means that he will not score any points at this time, because points only go in Spanish F4 up to 10th position. And it's exactly the same scoring system as F1. So you get 25 points for a win, 18 for second, 15 for third, down to 1 point for 10th. It's also 2 points for pole position and a point for fastest lap. Finish 11th or lower and you get nothing. So Kiana Lazari, this will be quite a blow for him in terms of point scoring, but the biggest benefactors certainly are, at this point, going to be Mattia Colnaghi and Ernesto Rivera. They currently sit, of course, in the lead, third position respectively. Of course, both of them are the top two rookies in the field. They lead the rookie category with Gladish in fourth position, Ty in fifth, and Strauben in, at the moment, eighth position overall, but fifth in the rookie class. And he'll certainly be glad to gain a few more points back on Al-Azari too, given the fact that he didn't qualify where he felt he should have done. And now has quite a bit of work to do. We'll get some respite, I think, in the second race, when the grids are going to be sort of reset a little bit more. So Ernesto Rivera then, just starting to chip away at Juan Cota's advantage. The DriveX driver under threat from the man from Camposh. Out of Virage Dupont. This is on lap 9 now, 8 laps in the books. And the lead gap has stabilised at about 3 seconds. This is the first lap, I think, that Mattia Colnaghi hasn't pulled away from the cars in front. So the gap has come down ever slightly. Through goes second, third, fourth and fifth. James Agozzi also hoping for a strong result. His best so far this year has been a pair of fourth places. If he finishes here, he will equal his best. He'd love a podium. To do that, he has to get back on terms with the two men in front of him as they turn through the complex at Hotel and then Camp, one of the tightest corners on the circuit. And the run through Saint-Baume and all the way onto the Mistral straight is absolutely crucial. Get a good smooth run onto that first part of that straight. There's every chance you can latch onto the toe of the car in front and line yourself up for a pass into the chicane. This is exactly what Rivera's doing, moving left to right, trying to just duck and dive underneath the toe and the rear wing of Cota's car. Is he going to line him up for a move into the chicane, and will he try and set him up for a little bit later on? He's close, but hasn't made an attempt. There's a tighter exit there than the DriveX man in front. This is now Spain versus Mexico. The second part of the straight here. Any chance for Rivera to move out this time? A few more close battles further back. I can see we've got, looks like that's Quintarelli, Strauben and Gerhardt, and they're battling over 8th, 9th and 10th. As Rivera goes on the attack, takes a slightly wider approach as the first part of the Beausset. Tighter run to the second part, and Agozzi's now started to close back in a little bit more as well. Fourth place for the Red Bull man. Of course, none of this is any concern, of course, to Mattia Colnaghi, who is spread eagle in the field here. He's pulled another 3/10 on this lap alone. He would certainly love to pick up a first win of the season. He will become this year's 5th different winner and would ensure that every single driver in the top 5 in points at the moment will have taken at least one race victory. Across the line, 8 minutes and a lap still to go. And there is your relatively untroubled race leader, Mattia Colnaghi from Italy. A fine performance for KCL MP Motorsport. This will be at least some kind of a silver lining for them, given the fact that they have their next highest car is Maciej Gladish in 5th position. That's his teammate, in fact, the KCL MP Motorsport. The next highest MP Motorsport car after that is Griffin Peebles in 7th place, the Australian. And of course, Keanu Al-Azari, who, looking where he currently sits at the moment, is still back in 29th. And his first sector, in fact, was not amazing at all. No, his first sector was good. He's going quicker. Still has some 5 seconds to make up on the next car in front, which is the recovering Hungarian of Adam Hideg, who started up in 16th for Crown Motorsport, but has fallen down the order with issues of his own. The top 4 just closing up PX in the chicane. This is the best chance that Rivera's had now to take second place towards Senior. And they are side by side. Here comes Rivera. Which way does he go? Inside or outside? I think he's outside now towards Senior corner. He's brave enough to try and dart it around the outside. But Cota holds his ground and continues to take second place. But now Agozzi's in the mix here too. Pulling slightly away from 5th place Maciej Gladish. Through the second part of the Beausset. Up towards the Virage de Bondor, this very tricky left-hander that opens out on the exit. It was right here, in fact, was where Chiara Walazari lost his front wing, and Maximiliano Restrepo was victim to that as well, which meant that he had to quickly dive for the pits and recover. But Kota, meanwhile, how much would he love to pick up his best result of the season? Even if he finishes 5th, it would still be a best result. Across the line they go. It's under 6 minutes to go now. Gap is now practically 3.5 seconds to Kota in second place now for Kolnagi. Currently still on course for only his 2nd podium finish of the season, but what a podium finish it would be, standing on the top step. But this is the main battle so far. Lots of battles I can see on the timing screen, very tight between lots of cars in the mid-pack. You can see there on the left as well that Chiara Walazari still 29th. This is going to be a really tough result for him. Lots of work to do in race 2 tomorrow. Try and claw back some of those points. And there's so much of a gap that Kolnagi doesn't even have to worry about a tow from the cars behind. I can't say the same for these 4 because they are all bunched together. And surely this is a case of when rather than if there's a position change, because they're all running that tight together that surely something has to give. But at the moment, it is now Spain versus Mexico versus America versus Poland. 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. All together. Kota for Drivex. Rivera and Igozzi for Campos. And Gladic for KCL MP Motorsport. Three different teams, 4 cars. All very evenly matched. But still, there doesn't appear to be any big movers here. We're just looking for somebody to make a mistake. Someone just to break a little bit deep, to lock up, to run a little bit wide. To give an opportunity to somebody. Or is somebody going to brute force their way through and find an opportunity somewhere around this circuit, Paul Ricard. And there it is. As I speak up the inside goes Rivera. Big dive into the Virage DuPont. Wide goes Kota on the exit. Keeps his foot in. And they're still side by side on the exit. So Kota's not going to give it in that easy. Now he has track position for the next corner, which is a left-hander down at the Estela Verrerie. And Kota slots in. I think Rivera must have realised if he did go through, it would have possibly been a move he had to get the position back anyway. Through the first S-bend. And Rivera tries to get the undercut here, but Kota shuts the door, and here comes James Igozzi in the Red Bull livery car for Campos. 3 of them for 2nd place, down towards Virage to the Hotel. Here comes Igozzi up the inside, and Rivera looking for 3rd position. Round the outside he looks, he might get 2 for the price of 1, here he goes. Also Gladic is getting involved there, Igozzi up to 3rd place. Rivera down to 4th, now he's under threat from the Polish driver behind. And the 4 cars are now nose to tails. They come out of St. Bowman onto the Mistral Straight once again on lap 12. Just over 3 minutes plus 1 lap. And the fight for 2nd is on. It really has started to heat up. Kota has it, but Igozzi, Rivera and Gladic all want it. Down the back straight towards the chicane for the 12th time in this race. And here comes Igozzi. In fact, that was Rivera going straight on. Outbreaks himself at the chicane. Through he goes, but he's going to have to give the place back, I'm certain. And he does, and he also loses out to Gladic as a result of that. So he lost 1 spot rather than trying to gain 1. So in 1 lap, he's lost 2 places. One to Igozzi with that dive into the complex at Camp Corner. And then as he rejoined after the straight line in the chicane, he lost out to Gladic on the exit too. I was talking about the fight for 2nd coming alive, and it just about has. And this also gives a bit of hope now for Nathan Tye. You can just see here them. He's the 5th car in shot. Nathan Tye also for Campos Racing, so he's got an opportunity to break into the top 6. Nathan Tye off the back of his best result of the season so far, 2nd at Portimao in race 3 last time out a few weeks ago. Does he have an opportunity to get himself in the mix there too? Also not too far away is Griffin Peebles, young Australian, who is quite far down in points, back down in 12th. Has a podium to his name from Portugal. He's on course for another top 10 finish. That would be if he stays in 7th position, excuse me. He would be picking up his 4th top 10 finish in a row. Meanwhile, this man, Mattia Kolnagi, is on course at the moment. He's got about a lap and a bit to go. Just shy of 2 laps, because I'm certain by the time he gets around to take the start-finish line next time by, the timer will have hit 0, and he gets one more time around the Circuit Paul Ricard here in La Castellet in France. And as Alex was saying, track temperature is some 37 degrees out there. It's an incredibly hot summer's day here in France. Is there going to be any last sting in the tail here for Juan Cota? He's held on for so long for second place. Was initially under attack from Rivera, then he dropped back after he lost out to Higotzi. And now the young American, backed by Red Bull, is on the prowl here. He wants second place. Question is, can he get it? And if he can, how's he going to do it? Also, Rivera on the comeback trail. He's on the back of Gladic here. Gladic going defensive in the background, you can see. Rivera moving with him. Now, can he get the undercut here, exiting Senior towards the double apex right-hander of Debose? Here goes Higotzi. Up inside of Yos. And into second position goes the American. That was a dive up the inside at the second part of Bose. And through he goes into second place. So Cota had held on for second place for so long. But a dive up the inside into the first apex to Bose gives the young American the position. Now Cota now has one more lap to try and get it back if he can, but he's got to be also careful that both Rivera and Gladic don't get involved here. Here's the replay. So siding up the inside for the fast part, that tighter line to the second apex. Didn't really give Cota any choice but to let him through. It was quite simply up the inside, through he goes. And Cota now goes from being the hunted to the hunter, because he's now on the Campos driver's tail. Likewise, we've still got Gladic and Rivera nose to tail. No change between them for 4th and 5th. Now the sprint down towards the complex at Hotel, then Camp Corner, then all the way back towards that Mistral Straight. Another prime chance for these 4 to try and make something in the slipstream. Quick check in for the rest of the top 10. We've still got Nathan Tye in 6th position, Griffin Peebles in 7th, Strauven in 8th position now, Quintarelli 9th, and Gerhardt's in 10th. And as for Keanu Alazari, I'll quickly check in. If he looks down the order, he still looks as though he's down in 27th. He's made up a couple of places, but this by far and away will be his worst result of the season. Hasn't finished outside the top 10 all year so far. This will certainly be his first major blot on his copybook. There, meanwhile, is Mattia Kolnagi, who really has had no effort to do, really. Led from pole position, held the lead through the early safety car, got a great restart, and has just spread eagled the field here in the lead of the race. Virtually unchallenged for KCL MP Motorsport. Still a fight on for 2nd and on for 4th. There could be some late changes here, because we saw how Higotzi slipped up the inside to take 2nd from Cota. But it will be a few firsts for this weekend. It will be Higotzi's first podium. It will also be Juan Cota's first podium. But for this man right here, has driven absolutely superbly. He took a first podium of the season back at Portimao last time out. Now he's going to go one better for himself, for Italy, and for KCL MP Motorsport. Is a first win in Spanish F4 of the season for Mattia Kolnagi. A fantastic lights to flag performance for the Italian. He wins race 1 here at Paul Ricard, and the feel-good factor will continue right behind him, because for 2nd place, a first podium for Campos Racing for the young American James Higotzi, and for 3rd, also his first podium of the season, goes to Juan Cota. So a podium full of firsts for Alex Garcia to have a chat to down there. 4th goes to Maciej Gladic. 5th goes in the end to Ernesto Rivera. 6th goes to Nathan Tye. 7th goes to Griffin Peebles. Thomas Strauven recovers to take a somewhat respectable 8th position. He'll be frustrated with that, especially after his tough qualifying. Then Matteo Quintarelli in 9th and Tim Gerhardt. That would be a by far and away a result he's delighted with. His first top 10 finish of the season, given the fact that his best result to date before today was 24th. And that was back at Harama in the 2nd race. Looking down the order at some other drivers who could have been a bit higher. A shout out actually to Adam Alazari, his first race in F4, only a week and a half after his 15th birthday. and he picks up a top 15 finish with 15th place. Well done. That's a bit of a silver lining, I'm sure, for the Al-Azhari family for that first race, particularly after Chiari Al-Azhari damaged his front wing, exiting the right-hander at Virage de Bondor. It tore off the front wing, had to pit for a new one, and that certainly means that he does not score for the first time in this race. Also, it was a dramatic day before the race even started for Lucas Flusha. Damage to the right rear, he doesn't score either. So 2 big hitters in the championship, the top 2 in the championship, do not score from race 1 at Paul Ricard. This really gave a break for the likes of Colnaghi, Rivera and Strauben, who are in the top 5 with them, to make some gains in the points and to close that gap a little bit more. The gap between Al-Azhari and Flusha stays the same, but certainly Strauben would have closed that gap up. With 8th position, he would have scored, I think it's 4 points, which means he would have brought the gap down between himself and Flusha to just 3 going into tomorrow. Ernesto Rivera has finished 4th and will 5th, and he will have gained 10 points, which puts him on 64, keeps him 4th, and then Mattia Colnaghi had 36 points, but that 25-point score would have pushed him all the way to 61. So he will now actually be, I think, ahead of Ernesto Rivera with that result. So potentially, we might be somewhere around that similar point. There might be tied in points, in fact, but we'll let the powers that be work out the calculations. But I do think it's going to be plenty of celebration down there for all 3 drivers. First win for Colnaghi and first podiums of the season for both James Agozzi and also for Juan Cota. How much of a boost is that going to be for Juan Cota, given that he's back in 19th in the points? But a big boost with some points for him going into tomorrow. He'll certainly want to enjoy that. As they pull in to the Parc Ferme top 3, there is your race winner. Our 5th different winner of the season, Mattia Colnaghi of Italy for KCL MP Motorsport. And you can see by that, he's pretty pleased. He's delighted with that. As you can see, we'll be handing over to Alex Garcia in a second. He'll be having a chat with our winner. See how we found out about that. And again, that's sub-smiles for MP Motorsport. A bit of a tougher race for them, particularly with Chiari Al-Azhari's problems. But still, a win is a win, and they'll take it any way they can. And it was a fine drive from Matteo. Definitely earned that. Was on the pace from start to finish. Got the great jump off the line. He let the guys behind him for 2nd and 3rd battle amongst each other. And just, even off the restart, just kept on pulling away. Let the cars that were battling for 2nd down to 5th fight amongst each other, lose time to him, and just kept on pulling away, chipping away at building that lead lap after lap. And in the end, he was ahead and at the flag by 6.5 seconds. Let's head down to Alex down there to have a chat with our winner, Mattia Colnaghi, for the first time in 2024.
Matteo Colnaghi, first win of the season. That is amazing, and of course a good sporting moment with your rivals on track. Yeah. But you didn't really have any rival today on track. You just went ahead, left everyone behind. Is that the perfect win for your first victory of the season?
Yeah, really happy with that. Was able to just pull away. Fastest on track, kept a good pace, and just pulled away 6.5 seconds. So can't really ask for much more. Happy with that. Thank you to MP, thank you to my engineer David, to my driver coach Fabien, my dad, and all the supporters of Spanish F4.
Turning point for the season after the first win?
Yeah, I think it's positive for us. We always had the potential since Jarama. We've always been fast. We did the pole position also there, but we were just missing some experience and some little details on the racing. But now we are there, and we are there for the championship.
Very good. Congratulations and enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
With Juan Cota. Juan, we came to you before the start of the race, very tight on time, and it seems we were your good luck charm because you had a very good race, very eventful, full of fights with other drivers. How was that? Walk us through it.
Well, the results was good, but we have to upgrade the pace because we have a little bit problems with oversteer. But well, we have a good car. We managed to fight for the position, and yeah, good rivals here. It's a very competitive championship, so it's good. But tomorrow we have to fight more hard to be on the top.
How good is it for you after the maybe a little bit difficult beginning of the season? Suddenly now you are on the podium, first podium of the season, so that has to be quite important for you.
Yeah, we have some problems at the start of the season, but well, all the time we keep working every session, every race, every meeting, And yeah, right now we are in the place that we want, and we are gonna keep fighting for that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we are finally with James Agozzi. James, you have been, without a doubt, one of the standouts of the race. Quite a nice last few laps fight for P2. Did you think at some point that you couldn't make it?
Well, when I finally got back ahead of Ernesto and I saw that I had another chance at P2, I was quite confident I could do it because my car was faster than Juan's. So just happy with the pace that we were able to have in the race and happy to be able to challenge for the podium.
First podium, and on top of that, on an internationally, world-renowned track, and one that is definitely fun to have a fight with, as we've seen in the race.
Yeah, I got a podium here last year in the Italian Championship with the rookie podium, but it's nice to be on the overall podium this time, isn't it? It's still P2, but it's the overall now.
Congratulations, enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
So Scott, that's what the top three had to say. Definitely we had quite a spicy race, especially on the last third of the race with quite a few fights. So I hope that you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed it from here, and I think as much as the drivers themselves enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. It was quite an entertaining race from start to finish. It was one of those races where Mattia Colnaghi pretty much had the race under his own control. He dominated from the start of the race, led through the safety car on the restart, and just left the cars behind to battle amongst themselves. It's that classic thing of the harder they fought each other, the easier it was for him to make a break and take that first victory of the season. Lots of scraps were going on for second place, but I think one of the key developments was the dropout of Chiara Alazzari with damage to his front wing all the way back in 27th. That's going to be a massive implication on the championship. He's got work to do tomorrow to try and regain those lost points in races 2 and 3 tomorrow.
Yes, that is definitely one of the big news of the day, and this is a little bit what we were mentioning before the start of the race, which is that's why we like motorsport, not because they have problems, but because this means the championship now is more open, there are more opportunities for other drivers, and we have a fantastic Sunday ahead of us.
We do. Just very quickly, Lucas Flusha also didn't even make it off the start line. Damage to the right rear and pushed off the grid just after the safety car was brought out because his car was involved. Again, another championship contender also with problems. It's going to be a couple of drivers tomorrow that's going to really have to get their elbows out and just make the most of any good qualifying results to get points back because they really didn't get the results they were hoping for.
Exactly, they'll have to fight hard both on the race 2 and on qualifying 2, hoping to get a good starting position for grid 3. So hopefully for them, they'll have a chance to fight back. But for us, definitely is 2 drivers to keep an eye on for race 2 and race 3. I would say that they have a nice interest to keep going. So for us, this is all. We've been happy to enjoy this first race of the weekend, and we look forward to more tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Alex. Good to have you down in pit lane. Thank you to all of you for watching race 1 today here for Spanish F4. That's all for today for this first race. Here's some of the highlights on screen. More races coming up for races 2 and 3 tomorrow. So tune in here on YouTube. And for myself, Scott Woodris, Alex Garcia, and all of us here at Paul Ricard, tune in tomorrow. More action for the F4 Spanish Championship here in France. Bye for now.